Welcome to the deep dive. Pull up a chair, get comfortable, and maybe grab your favorite beverage. Because today we are taking you into a world that is usually kept, well, strictly behind closed doors.
Yeah, we really are.
We spend a lot of time analyzing widespread trends and global data, but today we are zooming all the way in on a very specific, highly exclusive ecosystem. We're talking about the hidden world of luxury real estate,
Right.
and specifically the off-market housing ecosystem of Geist Reservoir in Indiana.
It is, it's an incredibly rich space to explore, primarily because it operates on a completely different set of physical and really psychological rules than the standard real estate market that you and I are probably used to.
Which is exactly why I wanted to dive into this. To help us navigate, we're using an extensive 2026 real estate blog archive from a woman named Cara Conde.
She's a major player out there.
She is. She operates as a luxury real estate advisor and a negotiation expert out of the greater Indianapolis area. We have a massive stack of her case studies, her market analyses, and her neighborhood deep dives.
Lots of really granular data.
Tons of it. So our mission today is to uncover how this ultra-competitive luxury housing market really works behind the scenes. We want to show you what happens far, far away from those public real estate apps you might, scroll through on your phone late at night.
We've all done it.
Exactly. And we want to understand the profound psychology behind buying and selling what they call a legacy home. Okay, let's unpack this.
To really grasp the mechanics of this hidden market, we have to start by looking at the buyers. Because the source material introduces us to a family that perfectly encapsulates the specific kind of emotional longing that drives this upper tier of real estate.
Right, the Harrison family.
Exactly. We have the Harrison family.
Mark and Elena Harrison and their 16-year-old twins, Jake and Sophia. The archive describes the twins as being full of fire, which
Anyone who has raised teenagers can probably picture immediately.
oh, absolutely. But the core of their story is this deeply rooted dream. Mark has these incredibly vivid childhood memories tied to rented boats and sunburned shoulders on the lake.
Yeah, that sensory nostalgia is so powerful.
It really is. And Elena actually fell in love with Mark years ago while listening to him tell stories about those lake sunsets. But as it so often happens, life, demanding careers, the daily commute, it all just kept them tethered to the city and away from the water.
And they'd have been searching for a home on Geist Reservoir for 2 full years by the time this case study picks up.
2 years is a long time to be looking.
It is. And I want to highlight that it was not a matter of lacking funds. They had a very solid, highly competitive budget, ranging from $950,000 to $1.35 million.
Which, in most markets, gives you the pick of the litter.
It does. But despite coming to the table with that kind of purchasing power, they kept slamming into the illusion of the open market.
The illusion, yeah.
The case study notes they spent those 2 years literally driving the perimeter of the reservoir, touring public listings.
Just circling the water.
Right. And they would see these massive grand homes that felt way too exposed to the main roads. Or they'd find charming little houses where the docks were situated entirely too far away.
Or worse, had to be shared with a neighbor.
Exactly, the shared dock issue.
I remember looking for my first place and hitting refresh on a real estate app 40 times a day, just hoping something new would pop up. The Harrisons were doing the high-end version of that, and they were looking for something that just didn't seem to exist on the public grid.
It's ghosting.
It really is. There was this crucial quote from Mark in the source material that really struck a chord with me. He said, "We were living parallel to the life we wanted. I wanted us to live in it."
That phrase, living parallel, is brilliant.
Isn't it?
From a psychological perspective, it perfectly captures the emotional weight of their search. The Harrisons weren't looking for a giant mansion just to serve as a status symbol to show off to their friends.
Right, it wasn't about flash.
Exactly. They were looking for substance over flash. They wanted a sheltered cove to soften the chaotic energy of the main water channel. They wanted mature trees that framed the horizon like a private gallery.
Private gallery, wow.
Fundamentally, they were looking for a house that felt like a member of the family.
Which is such an impossibly high bar to clear. You can't just go to a website and check a filter box for, house that feels like family.
You certainly can. And what's fascinating here is the concept of off-market properties.
Yes, let's get into this.
In the highest tiers of real estate, the most desirable, magical properties often never reach the public. Multiple listing service.
The MLS?
Right, the MLS. They never get a public for sale sign pounded into the front yard, and they never show up on an app.
Never.
They're hidden away behind thick walls of discretion and incredibly tight, closed relationship networks.
Let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because I know you, the listener, might be wondering this too. If I own a beautiful $1 million lake house, why in the world wouldn't I just put it on the open market?
To get a bidding war going.
Exactly. Wouldn't I want to get it in front of as many eyeballs as possible to drive up the price? It seems counterintuitive to intentionally limit your buyer pool.
It does seem counterintuitive if you look at it purely as a math equation.
Right.
But when you look at the psychology of high net worth individuals, privacy often becomes their most valuable asset.
Ah, privacy.
Putting a legacy home on a public app invites digital foot traffic from thousands of people who just want to click through the photos to see how the wealthy live.
Oh, looky-loos.
Exactly. It invites physical foot traffic from unqualified buyers. By keeping a property off-market, the seller creates an artificial scarcity that actually increases the perceived value of the home among the few highly qualified buyers who were invited to view it.
That makes a lot of sense. You're curating the audience.
Exactly.
But that brings us to the buyer's dilemma. How do you actually penetrate that hidden network? If these houses aren't listed online, how does someone like Mark Harrison even know they exist?
They don't, not on their own.
Right. This is where the source material dives into Cara Conde's strategy. She uses what she calls a white glove, concierge-level service.
The contrast between the standard digital real estate approach and her analog, highly personalized method is striking. She treats property acquisition more like intelligence gathering.
It's incredible. The case study mentions that their first meeting wasn't in some sterile corporate office looking at a dual-monitor computer screen.
No, it was much more intentional.
She met the Harrisons at a quiet table overlooking the water, and instead of pulling up a digital map, she promised to, and I loved this specific phrasing, listen to the reservoir.
It sounds poetic, perhaps a bit dramatic, but it is actually an accurate description of a highly rigorous, boots-on-the-ground networking operation.
I couldn't help but picture her as a mix between a high-end matchmaker and a private investigator.
That's a great way to put it.
She wasn't just setting up an automated email alert and waiting for a listing to pop up. She was actively hunting. And the archive gives us the specific details on exactly how she finds these invisible houses.
The legwork is intense.
It is. She is out there spending her early mornings at the local marina, talking directly to the dockmasters.
And if you think about the sociology of a marina, the dockmasters are the ultimate sources of local intelligence.
Oh, they know everything.
They know every single boat by name. They know which owners are taking their boats out every weekend. And more importantly, they know whose boat has been sitting under a tarp untouched for 2 years.
Which is a huge clue.
Massive. An unused boat often signals a life-changing. Maybe the owner is dealing with health issues or the kids moved away, which means the massive lake house attached to that boat might suddenly be feeling a bit too empty.
That is brilliant. It's pure behavioral data. The source also notes she is attending the Indianapolis Yacht Club Tuesday races and evening events.
Putting herself right in the center of the community.
Yes, she is actively inserting herself into the social fabric where these longtime owners gather. She is making very discreet inquiries to protective neighbors who treat their quiet little coves like family heirlooms.
And eventually, this absolute detective work pays off. She finds the match.
A perfect match.
A match that, crucially, wasn't actively trying to sell. Cara found a retired couple living in a beautifully wooded arm of the Intracoastal.
Wow.
They'd spent decades building memories in this particular house. They had taught their kids to sail there. They'd watched their grandkids dive off the dock. And they had hosted massive 4th of July bonfires that lit up the water for the whole cove.
But the physical reality was catching up with them.
It was.
The house had simply grown too big. The stairs were getting to be too much to navigate every day.
But again, coming back to the psychology of this market, they weren't listing the property publicly because they weren't just looking for a random buyer with a large checkbook.
They wanted more than money.
They were waiting. They specifically wanted someone who would carry on their legacy. For sellers at this level, handing over the keys is an emotional handover of a sanctuary.
A sanctuary, yeah.
They needed to know the next family would respect the soul of the home just as much as they did.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Cara doesn't just call the Harrisons on the phone, read out an address, and say, hey, meet me here in 20 minutes.
No, she orchestrates it.
The execution of this reveal is a masterclass in emotional staging. But before we get to the tour, I have to ask you to pull the actual specs of this house from the case study, because when I read this, my jaw dropped. Did it actually check the boxes for what the Harrisons were looking for?
It went far beyond their boxes.
Yeah.
We are looking at a 4,900 square foot home.
Huge.
It features soaring glass walls that make the lake itself the centerpiece of the entire living space. The kitchen was specifically designed so that you can watch the shifting light on the water while you cook.
Incredible.
It has a primary suite that faces the sunrise, a walkout game room on the lower level with a wet bar, which is perfect for 2 teenagers,
Oh, absolutely perfect.
and outside, a 60-foot dock with a hydraulic lift sitting in deep water right in a quiet cove.
And the price for all of this, $1.18 million.
Right in the sweet spot.
Perfectly within the Harrisons' budget. But back to how she showed it to them, she arranged the viewing for twilight.
Such a specific choice.
Right, and she didn't have them pull up into the driveway in their cars. They arrived by boat.
Which completely rewires the spatial and emotional context of the viewing.
You're seeing it how it's meant to be seen.
Exactly. You are approaching the home from the water, which is exactly how a lake house is meant to be experienced.
The source paints such a vivid picture of this moment. The sky is burning this deep apricot color. As they ease into the cove, Mark kills the boat engine, and the absolute silence of the reservoir just wraps around them.
That silence is exactly what they have been looking for.
Jake and Sophia are off the boat in seconds, testing the dock, peering into the deep water. Elena walks inside, touches the smooth kitchen island, and looks out at the horizon, perfectly framed by the trees.
And Mark walks in and stands shoulder to shoulder with her.
And Mark says, "This is where we come back to ourselves."
It is such a powerful realization to have in a space you've only just walked into.
It really is. And the sellers apparently sensed that exact genuine emotion. They saw their own family's joy reflected in the Harrisons, which is what ultimately sealed the deal.
A true passing of the torch.
Cara handled everything from the complex inspections to the personal requests of the sellers, and they closed in just 5 weeks. The Harrisons moved in right as the fall colors were turning.
There is a follow-up text message from Mark to Cara a few weeks later that really brings the psychology of this transaction full circle.
Oh, I loved this part.
It was a photo of the 4 of them on the dock at dusk, the boat tied up, lights twinkling across the water. And the text simply read, "We're not just home, we're alive again."
Let me ask you, the listener, to think about that for a second. Have you ever walked into a space, a room, or a landscape that instantly changed your internal rhythm?
It's a rare feeling.
It is a place where your shoulders just naturally dropped, your breathing slowed, and you felt entirely different. That is what this level of real estate matching is actually selling. It is not about price per square foot. It is a state of being.
And that specific state of being is fiercely protected, which is why the off-market ecosystem exists in the first place. The public market is loud, it is chaotic, and it is transactional.
Very transactional.
The off-market is quiet, curated, and deeply relational.
But Geist Reservoir holds more than just the Harrison family's secret. The source material notes that while Cara Conde was quietly hunting for them, she was simultaneously uncovering several other off-market gems.
She was busy.
Very busy. I want to look at a few of these because I think it proves that this isn't just a one-off lucky find. There is a whole shadow inventory floating around out there.
It absolutely demonstrates the sheer breadth of what is deliberately kept off those public apps. We were just talking about one lucky connection at a yacht club.
Right. So from the archive, we have a property in Feather Cove. This was an unlisted, secluded sanctuary priced at $985,000.
Just under $1 million.
It's a 3,900 square foot contemporary retreat with an elevated hot tub and a protected boat lift. Then, completely unlisted, there was an estate in the Admiral's neighborhood. This one was a bit higher, an off-market offering at $1.48 million.
A different tier, yeah.
It's a massive 5,400-plus square foot social peninsula. It features an outdoor kitchen, a massive stone fireplace for dockside evenings, and a climate-controlled wine room.
So that is a completely different lifestyle offering than the quiet Feather Cove sanctuary.
Oh, entirely different.
Targeting a very different kind of buyer, but equally hidden from the public eye.
And then a third one mentioned in the Masthead neighborhood. This was a timeless, classic lakeside home discreetly available for $849,000. 4 bedrooms, an expansive screened porch, and it comes with a deeded slip in a serene finger of the reservoir.
Let me pause on deeded slip for anyone who might not be familiar with lake real estate.
Good idea.
A deeded slip means you actually own the specific parking spot for your boat on the water. It's permanently attached to the property's title, rather than just renting space from a community marina.
Which is huge.
It is a massive value add. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at how a single agent actually gains access to all these hidden pockets of inventory.
It's not just luck.
Not at all.
Ah.
Looking through the extensive archives of Cara Conde's publications from 2025 and 2026, you realize her ability to pull off this Geist magic isn't just about being friendly and chatting with dockmasters.
Right.
It is backed by a massive, dominant data footprint in the greater Indianapolis market.
I'm glad you brought that up because looking at the sheer volume of her related articles, it's clear we have to treat her as a central node in a much larger data network.
Exactly.
She is handling major commercial real estate developments, and she's writing extensive guides on things like 1031 exchanges.
Which is a crucial piece of the puzzle. For those who might not know, a 1031 exchange is a tax deferral strategy.
Right.
It allows an investor to sell investment property and swap it for another one without immediately paying capital gains tax.
It keeps the money moving.
It creates a domino effect. If an investor liquidates a massive commercial warehouse, they suddenly have a lot of capital they need to park somewhere quickly, which often bleeds into the high-end residential market.
She's also tracking the self-storage boom and writing deep dives on single-room occupancy housing, or SROs.
Which are essentially multi-tenant buildings where people rent individual rooms.
Right. As well as navigating HUD loans and zoning laws for commercial developers. Not to mention her market dominance across all the surrounding suburbs like Avon, Carmel, Fishers, Noblesville, Zionsville. The list really just goes on.
And that deep cross-sector commercial background is exactly why she has the inside scoop on residential movements.
It all connects.
It does. When you represent commercial developers, luxury buyers, and seniors who are downsizing into specialized facilities, you become the central hub of an information asymmetry.
You see the whole board.
You know who is building a new corporate headquarters and needs to relocate their executives? You know who is liquidating a commercial asset? And you know who is quietly getting ready to pass their sanctuary on to the next generation, months or even years before a public listing is ever drafted?
So, what does this all mean? For you, the listener, who tunes in to learn how the world actually functions beneath the surface, there is a massive takeaway here.
There really is.
We live in an era where we are constantly told that all the world's information is democratized. We think if we just download the right app or set up the right automated email alert, we have total visibility into any market on Earth.
But we don't.
We don't. This deep dive proves that digital transparency is, in many ways, an illusion.
It is a vital lesson in critical thinking. In our modern world of severe information overload, the irony is that the most valuable data is often the data that isn't published anywhere.
That is so true.
The highest tier opportunities, whether you were talking about a legacy home on a lake, a high-level business acquisition, or an exclusive career move, they still operate entirely on discretion.
Discretion and trust.
They operate on human connection, boots-on-the-ground intelligence, and deeply curated expertise. Knowledge is certainly power, but this case study reminds us that knowledge is most valuable when it is applied through trusted, long-term relationships.
You just can't algorithm your way into a retired couple's private cove. You have to earn the right to know it is even there.
Exactly.
It takes listening to the reservoir, paying attention to the unsaid signals, and understanding the heavy emotional weight of a legacy. Well, thank you so much for pulling up a chair and joining us on this deep dive into the hidden, highly exclusive world of luxury real estate on Geist Reservoir.
It's been a fascinating journey.
We hope it gave you a totally new perspective on what is really happening just out of sight in the housing market.
This raises an important question. If the most valuable and life-changing properties in real estate never make it to the public market, what other areas of your life, your career, your investments, your community have a hidden off-market just waiting for you to find the right guide?